Why do people do what they do? We see clients who want to change the way they feel, they're stuck, they're depressed, etc. We see clients who want to change how they behave, become non-smokers or be able to give that presentation. And we see clients who want to change the way they think, to stop needing to perform OCD rituals or to get over a phobia. All of these are affected by more than just what happens in their brain. So I thought I'd look at why people do what they do. Hello, I'm Trevor Eddles. So all we ever see is what people look like, what they do, and how they react to what's going on. From that, we seem to infer their mood, and we attempt to predict how they will behave in future. We might even guess at what they were thinking when they acted in the way they did. And we might even try to work out what their beliefs might be that led them to behave in that particular way. This session looks at the two-way links between the brain and the body, affecting how a person thinks, feels, and behaves. So, what makes people behave, feel, and even think the way they do? And I'm going to start at the beginning. People start off the way they are because of their genes, a random mix from both parents. There are also the effects of epigenetics. This is where the expression of a gene or genes is altered, but the basic genetic code doesn't change. As scientists discover more about genes, we find some that definitely have a specific impact on a person, e.g. genes for a particular disease, and there are suggested genes for certain things like addiction or depression. Do genes control how happy a person will be? Well, Sonia Lubomirsky, author of The How of Happiness, suggests that 50% of happiness is genetically predetermined, while 10% is due to life circumstances, and 40% is the result of your own personal outlook. And I'm just wondering whether this figure might apply to more than happiness. The second big thing that affects a person is their environment. This is the surroundings or conditions in which a person lives or operates, and also where they used to live and operate. This led to the nature-nurture debate that went on for many years, and this fits Lubomirsky's ideas about happiness levels. We also know about US soldiers in the Vietnam War who took addictive opium while in Vietnam, and how the majority of them just stopped when they returned to their families in the USA. Their environment changed, and so did their behavior. We also know that a person's childhood can affect how they think and behave as an adult, and also affect their health as an adult and their life expectancy. And it's also during childhood that many people's core values and beliefs are created. And we see clients who experience butterflies or worse with nerves or excitement at the thought of giving a presentation. And we see people looking for help with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and other gut-related issues. So let's move on to our GI tract and the millions of bacteria, etc., that live in it, our gut microbiome. And let's look at the two-way link between the brain and gut, the gut-brain axis, or GBA. Our gut has to digest food, i.e. make and secrete enzymes. It has to absorb food, it has to squeeze food through itself, called peristalsis. It has to defeat invading bacteria. It has to ensure the cells in the lining keep the bad stuff out and let the good stuff through. It has to not have too thin a layer or too many gaps between cells. And it has to produce a layer of mucus over the top. And your microbiome helps. It does eat some of your food, but it does create useful products. And if you don't have a microbiome, e.g. through taking too many antibiotics, you'll not be very healthy. What you eat can affect your biome. Studies have shown that gut microbes can affect behavior and even emotions like depression. A Belgian study found two kinds of microbe Coprococcus and Dialista were missing from the microbiomes of their depressed subjects, but not from those with a high quality of life. Compounds made by the gut's microbiome, e.g. short-chain fatty acids, what they call SCFAs, such as butyric acid, propionic acid, and acetic acid, are able to stimulate sympathetic nerves, mucosal serotonin release, and to influence memory and the learning process. Vagal nerve activity and fecal microbiota transplants, yuck, can be used to influence mental health. And the gut microbiome plays a facilitating role between the stress response, inflammation and depression, and anxiety. Interstitial permeability, i.e. leaky gut, occurs with chronic low-grade inflammation, which happens more often in disorders such as anxiety or depression. And it's estimated that 90% of the body's serotonin is made in the digestive tract. In fact, altered levels of gut serotonin have been linked to diseases such as irritable bowel syndrome, cardiovascular disease, and osteoporosis. Stress can affect the composition of and the total amount of biome in a person's gut. The biome can be directly affected by neurons, immune cells, and enterochromaffin cells. These are neuroendocrine cells found in the gastric glands that aid in the production of gastric acid via the release of histamine. The brain also modulates gut functions such as motility, the secretion of acids, bicarbonates, and mucus, interstitial fluid handling, and mucosal immune responses. These maintain the mucus layer and biofilm where individual groups of bacteria grow. Plus, the brain may affect the biome composition and function by changing intestinal permeability, allowing bacterial antigens to penetrate the epithelium and stimulate an immune response in the mucosa. So, through the autonomic nervous system, the brain modulates immune function, which can increase epithelial permeability to bacteria, which facilitates their access to immune cells. Changes in the composition of the gut flora due to diet, drugs, or disease correlate with changes in levels of circulating cytokines, some of which can affect brain function. Now, cytokines are small proteins that affect the behavior of cells around them, and they're especially important in the immune system. Lastly on this, the gut has its own nervous system, called the enteric nervous system. The vagus nerve wanders around the body and contains nerves sending messages from the brain and nerves sending messages to the brain. And it affects how the gut behaves, trying to keep everything well, a homeostatic role. But it's also part of the gut-brain axis, sending messages from the gut to the brain, which then impacts on mood. Most of the body's immune system works on the gut. When our immune system identifies an invader, it releases cytokines, and the body is protected by inflammation. However, some people have continuous low levels of inflammation. And it's worth noting that the brain and the immune system have two-way links. So stress can cause inflammation. Stressful events might include bereavement, poverty, debt, social isolation, maltreatment as a child. Being overweight causes inflammation. Even public speaking can increase inflammation. Most inflammation occurs on the inside of the body, which people can't see. One of the ways the body naturally keeps the levels of inflammation down is through the vagus nerve, and it controls the inflammatory reflex. Now, the inflammatory reflex is a neural circuit that regulates the immune response to injury and invasion. If cytokine levels in the body rise, the vagus nerve will detect the change and send a message to the brain. A signal is then sent down the vagus nerve to the spleen, acting on macrophages, they're white cells, to reduce the cytokine level. But cytokines can cause collateral damage to the body's cells near where they're acting. Interestingly, vagal nerve stimulation can reduce inflammation, and increased vagal signaling inhibits inflammation and can prevent collateral organ damage. The health and fitness of the vagus nerve is called vagal tone. A high vagal tone equates to a better capacity to keep inflammation down. Other factors associated with increased inflammation include obesity, sedentary lifestyle, disordered sleep, emotional and physical trauma, medical illnesses such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, and autoimmune, infections, including exposure to unsanitary living conditions and poor hygiene, medical treatments such as surgery, chemotherapy, or radiation, and antidepressant treatment resistance. The body's natural immune response can trigger oxidative stress temporarily. This type of oxidative stress causes mild inflammation that goes away after the immune system fights off any infection or repairs an injury. Oxidative stress refers to an imbalance of free radicals and antioxidants in the body, which can lead to cell and tissue damage. Free radicals are molecules with one or more unpaired electron that are very reactive. And antioxidants are substances that neutralize or remove free radicals by donating an electron. The neutralizing effect of antioxidants helps protect the body from oxidative stress. And examples of antioxidants include vitamins A, C, and E. There's a lot of research evidence linking inflammation with depression. The blood-brain barrier protects the brain. We used to think it was impenetrable. The neuroimmune system is composed primarily of glial cells and mast cells, which are a type of white cell. During a neuroimmune response, cytokines send inflammatory signals across the blood-brain barrier, which activate microglial cells in the brain, which in turn release more cytokines. As a consequence, this can kill neurons or shrink them. It can reduce the number of synaptic connections, and the synaptic supply of neurotransmitters can be disrupted. And it can block the regenerative process that will create new cells. Tryptophan is a serotonin precursor. Microglial cells can instruct nerve cells to make other end products, such as kynurenine. That means there's less serotonin available in the brain, and kynurenine and other alternative end products are toxic. So inflammation in the body can have a negative impact on the brain, which can perhaps lead to depression. What else can affect a person? Well, there's sleep, exercise, and nutrition. And what happens if you don't get enough sleep? Well, sleepiness causes accidents, it cognitively impairs your thinking, it's associated with health issues, heart attack, stroke, diabetes, kills sex drive, it's linked with depression, ages your skin, makes you forgetful, can cause weight gain, mainly by bad food choices, and increases risk of death, e.g. people falling asleep at the wheel, and it impairs your judgment. If you do get enough sleep, it keeps your heart healthy, it may prevent cancer, it certainly reduces stress, it reduces inflation, it makes you more alert, it improves your memory, may help you lose weight, probably again with food choices, makes you cleverer, reduces the risk of depression, and helps the body repair itself. And research shows there are strong links between insomnia and anxiety. So let's move on to exercise, which for some people I just call movement because They don't like the idea of exercise. So the benefits are that it creates new brain cells, neurogenesis, and it uses BDNF to do that, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It improves your mental health and mood. It helps keep you thinking and learning. It improves your sleep. It strengthens bones and muscles. It reduces your risk of heart disease, helps you manage your blood sugar and insulin levels, increases your chances of living longer, improves your sexual health, and reduces the risk of some cancers. Looking at food, nutrition then helps with your biome and helps your gastrointestinal tract. Good things to eat include, well, all your food groups in moderation. So that's carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, and water. Water's particularly good. Good things to eat include prebiotics and probiotics, anti-inflammatory foods, e.g. fruits, greens, nuts, and grains, and foods containing antioxidants, e.g. dark chocolate, whole cereals, fruit, and vegetables again. Food tips for a good mood include eat your breakfast, stay hydrated, eat regularly, eat the right kind of fats, i.e. not trans fats, and avoid, wherever you can, processed foods. Now, all these things have an impact on your body and your brain, and therefore how you feel, think, and behave. As you go through life, you develop your model of the world. These experiences will usually be similar but different to your friends and family, and this will lead to your beliefs and your values. And these will affect how you behave and how you feel about things. Of course, your memories of an experience will change every time you recall that memory. What else affects how we feel? If we're suffering pain, that can have a big negative impact. Our hormone levels can affect us. Think about sort of fight and flight if you're full of adrenaline. Think about menopausal women. And if we tend to brood, that's us living in our right prefrontal cortex, that can impact on how we feel. On the positive side, if we control our breathing, for example, 7-11 breathing or square breathing, that can have a positive impact on how we feel. And diaphragmatic breathing with slow exhalations, that stimulates the vagus nerve, that slows down the heart rate, and that reduces blood pressure. Laughter can have a huge positive effect on how we feel. It can also have a big effect on memory. Meditation can also be very good. For example, the loving kindness meditation. That can help us to feel better and then behave in a more positive way. I mean, the actual meditation is on screen at the moment, if you want to try it later. Doing things that make us happy is good, but often what we think will make us happy doesn't. Hedonistic happiness includes things like eating chocolate and going to the pub every Friday. Trouble is, you get hedonic adaptation, and that results in us not enjoying them as much as we expected. Eudaimonic happiness refers to the subjective experiences associated with living a life of virtue in pursuit of human excellence. What that really means is experiences are usually more enjoyable than things. Events can have a big impact on where we are on the happy-sad scale. Evidence shows that if you have a big win or a big loss in life, typically, after a while, you're back to your original level of happiness. In fact, how we interpret events has a bigger impact than the event itself. So it's estimated that 90% of the impact of an event is how we interpret it, and only 10% is the event itself. Pressure can impact us negatively. This is where someone, perhaps our boss, demands work is done by a particular time. And this causes negative stress on our life. And too much pressure, whether real or imagined, can lead some people to thoughts of suicide. Other people's actions and reactions to what we say and do can not only impact on how we feel and how we behave, it can also impact on our values and beliefs. So I recommend spending time with positive people. NLP has an interesting model of what goes on in a person's head, and this affects how successful an attempt to make a change will be. So at the bottom is environment. This is like the opium addicts in the Vietnam War. Changing their environment, i.e. going home, changed their behaviour. Above environment is behaviour. Above that is capabilities. You can only do what you're capable of doing. Above that are beliefs and values. Above that is identity, which I guess used to be more important, where someone was identified by their job, for example, doctor or colonel, etc. And above that is put mission or purpose or sometimes spirituality. Other things people talk about in terms of getting themselves to do something are motivation, resilience, if other things or people are trying to stop them, and willpower or grit when the going gets tough. And if we want to be positive about things, then we need to have positive thoughts, positive actions, positive interactions, and a purpose to our life. If we don't have enough of any of those, then this can lead to negative emotions and negative thoughts. I also want to mention mindset. People with a fixed mindset think that their positive characteristics are fixed and there's nothing they can do about them. So they will behave in a way to hide their failures and make the most of their successes. People with a growth mindset know that they will be able to work hard and improve throughout their life. So they will take risks with tasks because they treat failure as a learning exercise. If you're feeling anxious, then this can lead to behaviours like OCD getting worse, fears and phobias getting worse, panic attacks, and it can also make pain hurt much more. And thoughts, feelings, behaviour, and physical reactions, e.g. blushing, are all linked. So a change in one can cause a change in the other. Just the thought about emotions. Lisa Feldman Barrett suggests that emotions are constructed in brain circuits rather than just appearing in the amygdala. Anyway, that's a very quick run through the different factors affecting why people do what they do. And that's without even looking at the things you already know about the brain. So thank you for watching, and email me if you have any questions.